Welcome back to the channel, everybody. So it's another beautiful Sunday here in Jacksonville, North Carolina. It's October 16th, just about 10:30 in the morning. Temperature's right at 68 degrees, humidity's right around 60%, and it feels absolutely amazing out here in the bee yard. So you may have noticed a little bit of a different setup. So I actually just got done moving most of these boxes here in the hive stand, which was over there if you noticed previous videos, really in an effort to see what next year could look like. And this is pretty interesting to me. So the yellow box right there, number 7, was the last hive, and then I moved these boxes here over. Some of the frames have some drawn comb, and if you can't see that or not, let's see if we can get a little closer. I don't have my veil on yet, but some of the bees are already checking out this colony, mainly because I'm assuming they're right next door to where they're used to going, so drift is natural, but I'm kind of curious to see if any of the bees happen to move in there. It's very late in the season, well past swarm season that usually ends towards the end of July, maybe August. So I'd be extremely shocked if I caught a swarm just by moving some boxes next to an established colony. So hey, I'm not going to feed the bees this week. I'm actually going to give them a break. And I'm just going to conduct a full in-depth inspection on all the colonies, and like usual, I'll show you anything interesting that I come across. But yeah, that's it for this week. Mid-October inspection, in-depth inspection, no feeding. I did feed them last week and treated them with the oxalic acid dribble method. If you didn't catch that video, it'll be the previous one to this one. And as you saw in the intro B-roll footage, the bees are all over what I think is silverling shrub. It goes by quite a few names, but they are all over it, and they're bringing in a ton of pollen, which is fantastic, because the goldenrod, which should be in full bloom, I mean, it is in full bloom, don't get me wrong, but we don't have as much this year as we've had in the years past. So it is nice to see the bees found another source of natural pollen, which is the silverling shrub. All right, enough me yapping. Let's get into the hives and see how they're looking for the week. All right, we're down here at hive number 1. Just gave them some smoke. Yeah, I don't think that lizard wanted to hang out too long. All right, let's take the inner cover off and see how they're looking. We got this beetle trap sealed down. Yeah, I'm just going to give you a quick first look, and then I'm going to get into the box, and if I find anything interesting, I'll show you. But the first thing I noticed is, if you can see that or not, some very nice new wax. So I did some reading on the silverling shrub. Like I said in the intro, it goes by quite a few names, but the bees can actually get both nectar and pollen from it. So it's interesting to see the amount of bees on that shrub, and I'll try to make a determination if they're possibly bringing in some food sources from that. All right, quick look at the very third frame in the top box, and they are bringing in some sort of nectar on both sides. So they're making use of something that's currently in bloom. Check out the 5th frame. Hopefully y'all can see that right there. Look at all that nectar. Here's a look at the very next frame. As you can see, the queen has been up here and the bees have capped some of the brood, and they are also tearing out some of the brood that was not suitable for the colony. Here's a look at the 8th frame. A little more progress from last week, but they're making good use of nectar sources and packing away the honey for the winter. First look into the bottom box. Plenty of bees, relatively calm. Let's pull a few frames, see how the brood's looking. All right, so we have brood on that side, and the opposite side, larva and eggs. And this is the 4th frame. Again, I have a frame feeder in that takes up 2 frame spaces, so this 10 frame is actually being ran as an 8 frame. But yeah, the center frame, the 4th frame here, we have brood and eggs, so they're queen right, which means I can box them up and move on to the next one. But I decided to check the very next frame, and there you can see Her Majesty right there. Should be in the center of the frame. Nice yellow dot. So I am now 100% going to put them back together and move on to the next colony. All right, well, that was a pretty good start for the week. The hive down in the #1 position. Nice food stores, definitely making use of whatever's in bloom right now, to include the silverling. Can't talk about that enough because it is a very new discovery to me. Top box is looking good with food stores. Bottom box is looking good with brood and eggs. And as y'all saw, I found the queen. So sometimes it can be that easy. Not all the time, but sometimes. All right, down here at the very next hive. Front entrance is looking nice. Give them some smoke. As you can see, they have a top hive feeder on, which I imagine would be empty, and it is. And it looks like this is something new. It looks like because I have an inner cover on, that actually allows some critters, to include yellow jackets, to get in here. So I'll have to keep that in mind for next time, not to use an inner cover, because it might allow critters that I don't want to get into the feeder. All right, not terribly interesting, but I just managed to go through the entire top box here, and there are some bees working the frames, but really not much. I wanted to see more, kind of expected more. There's really no food to speak of on these frames. They have nice drawn wax, but they're just not storing anything up here. So let's get into the bottom box and hopefully that's different. All right, quick first look at the bottom box. Nice concentration of bees. So again, I'm just gonna pull a few frames, take a look at the brood, look for eggs. If I find the queen, great, but really just making sure they're queen right. All right, so because this box has a top feeder, I'm actually running them as a full 10 frame, and I am on this 6th frame. Frame 1 and 2, not much going on outside frames. Frames 3, 4, and 5, a lot of very nice food stores. And then this is the first frame that has some very nice capped brood surrounded by a band of food. And then this side is a lot of nectar. So I imagine the next few frames will probably be about the same. Some very nice brood frames. Yeah. It's another nice brood frame on both sides. So the bee activity on this colony should really pick up. There should be a noticeable increase at the hive entrance over the next few weeks. So yeah, they're looking nice. It seems like every time I turn the camera off to grab the next frame, just to check their overall health, I ended up finding the queen. So there she is, should be center of your screen. So yeah, no doubt that they are queen right. So I'm just gonna put them back together and move on to the next colony. Before I put everything back together, this is what I wanted to show you. So check out that food store. the frame next to it down in the colony as well. So again, they're taking advantage of whatever's blooming in preparation for the winter. All right, down here at hive number 1 in the 3rd position, this colony's got a lot of attention over the last week or two. So I think it was 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, that I moved some frames from a few other colonies into this one to help them out. So let's see how they're doing this week. So I fed them last week, just like all the colonies. I'm really curious to see if they've decided to make any queen cells to replace the queen, because I don't think she was doing all that great. I did not get into the bottom box last week. That's right, I just fed them. So let me go through the frames and I'll show you anything that might be a bit interesting. All right, so center frame in the top box, I don't remember this much capped honey or sugar water, but maybe it's a combination of feeding them last week and the bees that I moved over, or the frames that I moved over from the other colonies. Those bees hatched and maybe they're just helping create some more food stores. Let's take a look at the next frame real quick, because it looks like it has a decent amount of food on it as well. Yeah, sure enough. So they're doing a nice job storing away some food. All right, trying to make this a regular thing as long as I can remember, but here's a first look at the bottom box. So like I pointed out last week, I think, I moved these 2 frames over from number 5, this frame over from number 2, and this frame over from number 4. And it looks like quite a few bees have hatched in the last 2 weeks, because it looks like more bees than usual. So just like the other hives, let's get into the bottom box, really checking for brood health. If I can find the queen, great. It's probably the same queen. Well, maybe, maybe not, but we'll see here in a second. All right, very 3rd frame. Hopefully you can see her. Her dot's starting to wear off, but that is the same queen. And I don't know, I still have the same thoughts based off her abdomen size being as small as it is, and the brood pattern in here being what I would consider fairly bad. So since I found her on this frame, let's see if we can find any eggs. And that's the other thing, I don't know what she's doing, but it doesn't seem like she's really laying any eggs. So I don't know. It's not the best time of year to try to figure this out. Well, it is a good time of year because I could combine this colony with another and prevent their death, because I don't think at this rate, I don't think they're gonna survive the winter. But I do want to check the rest of the frames to see if the bees decided to raise or create any queen cells from the frames I transferred. All right, just got done with number 1. I'm gonna have to keep a close eye on them, because the colony did not create any queen cells like I was hoping, or queen cups, from the frames I transferred about 2 weeks ago. It looks like most of that brood has hatched out, with maybe a frame or 2 with some nice cap brood that has yet to hatch. The queen still looks bad, as y'all saw. I'm not really seeing any sort of good egg pattern or brood pattern, so I'm gonna have to make a decision in the next 2 weeks to possibly combine them with another colony, just so they don't die over the winter, because at this rate, I really don't think they'll survive the winter. So I'll have to think about that over the next week or so and make a decision here soon. All right, down here at the hive in the 4th position, so this will be ran as a true 10 frame, because this is the 2nd colony that has a top feeder on. I set the top feeder over here just because of the amount of bees on the bottom side of it, but since I'm not going to feed them this week, I'm going to clean up the top feeders. And let's see what we're looking at. There looks like a whole bunch of nice new wax right there. Bees are pretty calm. Nice concentration of bees between the center frames there and the top box. So same thing like usual. I'm just gonna go frame by frame and I'll show you anything interesting I come across. All right, as promised, frame number 4. Check this out. Some beautiful brood amongst a food frame. So that's pretty cool. And then this side, yeah, they're doing a nice job capping some honey. The rest is nectar. But yeah, check that out. That is nice. Yeah, very nice frame. I just hit this section here with the flashlight. I don't know if it's gonna come up with the GoPro, but there are eggs, and then you might be able to see the larva over there. So this colony is definitely queen right. It's nice to see the queen has moved up into the top box quite a few weeks ago. So they're looking pretty good. All right, there is practically something on every frame in this colony because I just turned the camera off to turn it back on. Look at this beautiful capped honey. I wasn't really expecting to see this, but look at that. Got a queen cup down there. Finding a no kidding queen cell in the center frame, the hive in the 4th position, gives me an idea. So I'm about to move this frame over into number 3. Actually number 1, which is in the 3rd position. So before I do that, let me actually find the queen in here first. All right, quick look at the bottom box. Hopefully they decided to make that queen cell because they're becoming overcrowded and not because this queen is failing. Based off the brood patterns in the top box, I would want to keep her. So let me get into this box. If I can find her, I'm going to cage her. I don't think that's necessary. If I find her, that's great. I'm definitely going to check to make sure they're still queen right, looking for some eggs. And as long as they're queen right, I'm going to move that frame from the top box with the charged queen cell into hive number 1 right next door in just one last ditched effort to get them moving in the right direction, because they're still queen right, but that queen, I don't know. I don't think she's really doing the best job. All right, so I ended up pulling the 3rd frame because the first 2 are kind of falling apart, and the bees have these frames just glued together. And I was quickly able to determine they are queen right, because there is an abundance of eggs on all the open cells. So it's really just a matter of, I still want to find her. So I'm going to move a few more frames, check them out, and then probably proceed with my original plan with moving that frame from the top box into hive number 1. All right, well, if you can't tell, here's a bit of a curveball. So there is another very mature queen cell that just isn't capped yet. So that's 2. 1 in the top box and 1 in the bottom box. Ironically, they're both on the 5th frame. So something's going on. I'm hoping these bees are just overcrowded and they've decided to start making some queen cells to swarm and free up some space. So if that's the case, I definitely have a place for them. I just need to find the queen first, and then I might move this frame and the top frame over into number 1. I completely overlooked this. But they have, let's see, they have 2 more mature queen cells, and that's frame number 4. So, trying to figure out what's going on with them. At this point, I definitely want to find the queen. I found signs that they're queen right. I mean, I found eggs, but I definitely want to find her, cage her, and then make some decisions. All right, so we got the hive in the 4th position open and number 1 in the 3rd position. I just took the frame right next to the food feeder out of number 1. Shook all the bees off since they need as much help as possible. And with that said, I'm going to move this frame from the hive in the 4th position that has 2 pretty mature queen cells on the bottom there. I cannot find the queen in this colony either. I'm pretty confident she's not on this frame, but yeah, so I'm gonna move this frame again with the 2 queen cells into hive number 1 in the center. So I just have to move a few frames over, and we'll see what they can do. Hopefully the bees make sense of this and kick the queen out, but we'll see what happens. All right, let me see if I can explain this. So hive in the 4th position, I found a queen cell on the bottom of the center frame in the top box, and then I found 2 queen cells on the bottom of the center frame, frame number 5 or frame number 4 in the bottom box. So because hive number 3 has been doing not great, I decided to move both of those frames over into hive number 3 in an effort for them to basically have a better queen. So as I was doing this, I thought I should probably find number 3's queen. So if nature, you know, doesn't do anything different, hopefully number 3's queen, or number 1, it's the hive in the 3rd position, hopefully she doesn't go around and sting those queen cells, kill them, and make this whole idea I have pointless. So I could not re-find number 1's queen. I found her when I initially went through, as you all saw. I could not find number 4's queen at all. However, there are signs that they are queen right because I found day-old eggs. I just couldn't find the queen. So given the amount of bees, I don't think they have swarmed just yet, but they may have been pretty close to swarming, considering the colony created and raised 3 very mature queen cells. So what I'm thinking is later today, after the bees settle, I've done this before, I'm gonna get back into number 3, try to find their queen and kill her now that they have 3 queen cells to work with, and find number 4's queen just to make sure they are queen right. So I'll do that later. All right, finally down here at hive number 5. The hive in the 4th position took quite a while to get through, as y'all may have saw, mainly trying to make a few decisions whether or not to move some frames around with queen cells, etc. So anyway, down here at 5. That's what happens sometimes. Sometimes you run across something you weren't really expecting, and it takes a while to basically create a plan. But yeah, number 5, looking good, ton of bees. All right, same thing as before. I'll show you anything interesting as I come across it. All right, just like most of the colonies, they're doing a good job making use of whatever's in bloom. This is the very 4th frame in the top box. All right, first look at the bottom box. Nice concentration of bees. Let's go frame by frame and see what we can find. All right, so very center frame. She is a beauty. Frame number 4, because I have a in-hive feeder, so it's ran as an 8th frame, but yeah, she is a nice looking queen. All right, down here at 6, let's give them some smoke. Hopefully this goes as quickly as 5. 5 is looking nice, as y'all saw. Nice brood frames, found the queen, so no doubt they are queen right. All right, quick look at the top box. not as many bees hanging out on the top frames. Few frames where there's a concentration of bees. But yeah, I'll show you anything I come across. All right, move through the top box pretty fast because they don't really have anything going on. Bottom box is looking much better. So again, let's go frame by frame, checking the brood, making sure they're queen right, and just a general assessment of the colony's health. All right, very second frame. I really don't know what is going on here, but yes, I don't know if the GoPro is going to pick up on that, but that is a queen cell because it has a larva in it. So, all right, shifting gears. Now I want to try and find the queen to where I can possibly make a plan for this queen cell. All right, well, that didn't take long. The very next frame has a very mature queen cell as well, which will probably be capped within the next week. This is becoming a very interesting inspection. All right, finally down here at hive number 7. I've been out here for quite a while today, mainly because number 3 and number 4 caused some delays, and then number 5, same thing. As y'all saw, found 2 queen cells on the first few frames in number 5. Couldn't find the queen. Did find eggs, so it seems like they're queen right, but who knows. So anyway, finally down here at hive number 7. So I can't possibly imagine what more surprises I could have for the week, but I guess we'll find out here in a second. This colony has done extremely well over the last few months after finding a new queen, marking her. I've said that I think practically every inspection, but considering how the last few hives have looked, which is practically half the bee yard, I really don't want any more surprises for the week, but we'll kind of see how that goes here in a second, right? All right, so again, some first looks. Nice concentration of bees in the top box. I'll get down in them frame by frame and see what I find. Hopefully I don't find any queen cells, but I don't want to jinx myself. All right, just got done with the top box. Did not find the queen in there this week. First look at the bottom box. Bees have been relatively calm for months now. Nice concentration of bees. Let's get in there and see what we can find. I was just thinking to myself that I have not found a queen hanging out on the very last frame, a frame that they typically have no business hanging out on because there's no drawn comb, there's no brood, etc., etc. And sure enough, hive number 7's queen made me work for it this week. I believe it was last week I found her in the top box on a food frame, somewhere I typically wouldn't even bother looking for or expecting to find the queen. And then sure enough, this week, the very last frame. She had me worried. So anyway, number 7 looks good. No queen cells, no swarm cells. Queen looks good, brood looks good, food stores look good. So let me box them up and try to give a summary of today's activities. All right, so pretty interesting time in the bee yard today. If y'all watch the full video, you know what I mean. But in summary, ain't much really great to talk about. The first 2 hives are looking good. The hive in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th position, I have the bricks facing forward as an indicator that I want to get back into them later today. 6 and 7 we're looking just fine. Nothing really to talk about. Everything's good with those. But these 3, man. So number 3, I want to find the queen and kill her because I moved 1 deep frame and 1 medium frame containing 2 queen cells and 1 queen cell into this hive. So I want to find the queen and kill her. Hopefully she hasn't stung the queen cells I moved in there, but there's really no way to tell. So that's 3. Number 4, can't remember this point. And 5, I don't think, let's see, I couldn't find the queen. Anyway, yeah, so I have some follow-up to do. I'll give them a few hours. I've done it before when I really needed to find the queen, and I went through all the frames twice and I just couldn't find her. I put the colony back together, put all the frames back together, boxed them up, gave them a few hours, and came out later in the day, and I was able to find the queen no problem. So I'm thinking and hoping that could be what's currently going on. Since I just got in there, she's being very evasive and just avoiding me, really. So like I said, I'm gonna give him an hour, get some lunch, come back out, get into those 3 hives, and figure out what I want to do with them. But yeah, interesting time. I was not expecting to find as many queen cells, mature queen cells, as I found today, which is funny because I think I said that in the introduction, that it's well past swarm season. Swarm season typically ends the end of July, etc, 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 and then here I am finding multiple hives with multiple queen cells. Some, if my memory serves me right, some of those hives I couldn't find the queen. So I don't think they swarm though, because I found day-old eggs in a few of the hives, and because of the amount of bees in those colonies, I don't think they swarm. So I think they still have a queen, I just couldn't find her. So like I said a few times, I'm gonna give it a few hours, come back out, give it one more try today, since when I got out into the hives around 10:30 or so, it was about 65, 68 degrees. I think I said 68. Late afternoon, early to late afternoon, from about 1 to 4 p.m. today, it's going to be like in the 80s, high 70s, low 80s. So I definitely have time. The weather's on my side to where I can get back into the colonies in a few hours and possibly find the queen. So interesting time in the bees. All right, so that is the intermediate summary. I'll show y'all what I'm doing later today once I get back out here.